Okay, Craig, here's a question submitted to our website for you. I noticed that Mo's stance is extraordinarily wide and he addresses the ball with his club a foot behind it. Are these unique to Mo, or should I try these things in my setup? Steve Tanner would like to know.
Good question. Wide stance, very important because it stabilizes the hips and stops the player from swaying around a lot. No spinning action, a wonderful way to stabilize. And starting the club behind the ball, wonderful thing it does. Mo starts at about 17 inches behind the ball. Already 1 foot of the swing has been eliminated. You're already inside. You don't take it outside doing that. And the great thing about it is the shoulders are already in the turn. You can see when I place the club back, as long as I move my shoulders to that spot, I'm already in the turn. So eliminating the foot of the swing, already in the turn, it clears the right side. A wonderful way to start back, clearing the side out of the way.
How does the wide stance help those people who tend to reverse pivot at some point during their motion?
Yes, good question. If you are in the middle of your feet, which is really what wide stances do, you don't want to favor one or the other. You spread your feet equally to each side of the ball so that you don't favor one or the other. It keeps the weight over the spine, between the shoes, between the feet. And so if somebody's going to go and reverse pivot, they're going to shift their weight to the front leg. And with the wide stance, it's very difficult to, because the more the right foot goes back, the harder it is to go to the front leg. So I really like the wide stance. It's a stabilizer, keeps the player over the spine, and when the player goes back, it tends to keep the head over the spine and the spine in the middle of the feet.
Why don't we check in with one of your students? We have Allie here in Florida. How are you tonight, Allie?
Hi, I'm good. Hi, Mr. Shankland.
Good to hear from you, Allie.
Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you for all your support and help. You're a wonderful teacher.
Thank you very much. You're a terrific player, too.
I just want to ask you a question.
Yes.
I noticed from watching Mo tonight that he had a great mental game. And you know from working with me, I struggle with that a little on the golf course. And I was wondering how you could help me with that, like in terms of Mo.
Yes, Allie, Mo is fantastic in making wonderful pictures. He has mental pictures, like goalposts and things out in front of him all the time. So he sees images and pictures. So before every shot, any player can learn a lot from that. Have an image in your mind of what you'd like to do, and then play into your images. So unless there's an image, and make sure you have one, an image of the flag or a bunker or a tree, and an image of your golf swing before you actually go to the ball, then you've got two wonderful positive things. An image picture of where you're going and what you're going to do in your golf swing. And that way you can pull the trigger and be very positive. No negative images, and only take the club back when your images are clear and crystal clear.
If you were going to have a swing thought, would you prefer to see your students have a backswing or a through swing thought?
Well, I like to play on the front side, Peter, because that's where all the good stuff is done. I mean, you see many swings today doing funny things going up, and the ball doesn't seem to care. So there must be something on the way down that corrects all that stuff going up. So like Furyk, for example. And what has that got to do with anything other than looking a bit odd? But coming down, it's beautiful. So it has to literally tie into something. So when it ties into the target, which most of those players are, you're much forward, your mind is more on the forward side of the swing. And so when you get to here, all you see are the positive things, where the ball is going, what its shape is, how it's going to fly, how it's going to sound. So all those things help you to react to it.
Let's check in with Rick in Colorado, see what's on his mind. How are you tonight, sir?
Excellent. Hi, how you guys doing?
Very well, thanks.
Hey, Coach, it's me, Rick. How you doing?
Yeah, good to hear from you, Rick.
My question is I'm having a tendency to have the club head beat my hands to the ball. Maybe a drill or two or something you could help me work on.
Good, Rick. I mean, I know you're very fast and you're very extremely strong. He's a man who hits the ball at sensational distances, Peter, and a wonderful player, and has adopted Mo's style a little bit. And so in answer to that question, how do you stop your hands from beating the body through and starting the hands down from the top, which usually fast players do? They get very quick and very early. So in Mo's style of swing, since you're not pivoting very much and you go to the top of the backswing, a good trigger To stop the hands from moving first is to substitute the hands with something else. So move to the knee, move to your right knee and kick it, we call kick it forward. And that way, as it kicks forward, it leads the hands. That way your arms and hands will then follow the knee, and you'll avoid beating the hands will avoid beating the body.
We watched in Mo's swing how his lower body is particularly aggressive, but his weight is still behind the ball at impact, and clearly the upper body is equal to or further back from the golf ball than it was at address. How can the rest of us have freedom here, but make sure that we keep the top half behind where it needs to be?
Excellent question. That happens all the time, Peter. You see the top of the body leading first and the bottom very, very stationary and stuck. And so what Mo does, he has a little movement. When he gets to the top of the backswing, both legs go to the left to shift the weight to the front foot. That way, at least this stays quiet, the chest stays back, the center stays over the ball, and therefore the weight is already on the front lead leg before the player gets to the ball. That way your chest is facing the ball and the club is perfectly placed at impact, and the upper body has not gone past the ball. It's actually returned to where it was when it started.
Is there a drill that you recommend that reinforces that sensation?
Yes. Very good drill for that. One that I devised years ago because I couldn't stand people doing that. They were going over the top, and I said, my God, what have I got to come up with for that? So this is what I did. People look at themselves in the mirror a lot. They turn their head when they're looking in the mirror. They go to the mirror, and if you keep your eyes and head looking back in the mirror and bring the club back down to the ball, you will be in a perfect place at impact. We'll do that one more time. Keep looking in the mirror. We call it the look back drill, and bring the club back down to the place it started from, and then take a look at the ball, and you'll be in a perfect place with the top of your body.
So that drill suggests clearly that the head is the culprit, in your view, that moves the upper half towards the target.
Yes. A steady head position, not down or absolutely rigid, but very stable, is the thing that the swing pivots around. It has to have a steady center. If it doesn't, things move all over the place. People lift, people shift, people drop down, and all those things help us to hit toe, heel, bottom, top all the time. So heavens, the best thing to do there is to stabilize the head as you go back and just leave it where it is as though it were in concrete, and let the trunk move it a little bit. And as it comes back, you maintain your level perfectly, and the club returns back to the center of the face.
And we'll return our audience back to LPGA International and more Mo right after this break. As we leave you, just want to make sure that you are intimately familiar with our website. Log on to thegolfchannel.com. You click onto the Academy Live section. You can email us questions. You can take lessons on any and all parts of your game. You can read the resumes of teachers who have been on and will be on our show. Check out highlights, find out when your favorite shows will be on, and go ahead and explore the site. Lots of great information, updated scoring, Adam Barr reports. Check it all out on thegolfchannel.com. There's a lot of things that he does that look classical in the sense of, for example, his lower body work.
His lower body work's phenomenal.
Is in the vein of all great players, is it not?
Absolutely. I think one of the things you'll see as the club gets longer is the stance gets wider, but he's extremely wide even with the 7-iron. And then that brings in the fact that the right heel stays on the ground until after impact. How do you do that and not hurt yourself? Well, that's one of the great moves in golf. On the forward swing, in Mo's swing, with both feet flat on the ground and very solid on your feet, you have to have a move. And his move is the best in golf. And it's strictly done with his legs. Mo, and show us how you do that, because I think it's probably one of the great moves in golf, with your legs on the forward swing. You see how he's moving them to the front side. So his weight, even though the foot's on the ground, his weight is on the front leg. And therefore the rest of it's just catch up.
Why hasn't he gotten ahead of the ball when he's done that, Craig?
Because the top of his swing is still over the ball. The head and the shoulders are still over the ball. They don't go, the bottom goes. It would be more what we would call lateral today, Peter. He's more lateral and not circular. And so he because of his feet being so wide, I think everything in this golf swing is based on his setup. Two things in his setup. One, the tremendous width of his stance, and two, the tremendous reach of his arms.
And the swing is so brief. I mean, it's almost hip high in the backswing. Would players at home benefit from a shorter golf swing?
That's a great question, and it's wonderful to see it in him. He generates a phenomenal amount of speed in a short space of time, where a lot of players, average players, try to extend their swings beyond their capabilities and wreck it by direction. And so you can see his arm swing is about, his left arm swing is about to 9 o'clock or shoulder high, but the club shaft isn't. The shaft is up there at about 11 o'clock, almost 12 o'clock. So how does it do that? The arm goes to 9, the shaft goes to almost up to 12. That's his hand action. So actually Mo does something unique. It's almost like a Davis Love. He loads his downswing. He loads up on the downswing with his hands more than he does going back. So he actually hinges more on the way down than he does going up.
Now, Jones did that. Sergio Garcia does that. Hogan did that.
Right.
Do you have to have special gifts to make that work?
I think so. I think you either have it or you don't have it. It's in the elasticity in your golf swing. It's in the feel in your hands and your arms. And of course, he has that better than anyone. And now you see it in the forward again. The same arm action, the same swing length, and the same timing, precisely exactly the same every single time. And as you watch it carefully, you can see the way the hands actually start to hinge on the way down. And that's called downswing loading. A lot of people like to do it going back. Mo likes to do it coming down.
He seems to keep his club on the ball target line longer than anyone we've ever seen, even more so than Byron, even more so than Lee Trevino. But when the recreational player does that, he hits a high shot to the right without power. Explain that to us.
Well, he's got, you know, in terms of what starts it all, Peter, you're going back to look at the extension he has in his arm swing. In the setup, his arms are at the limit. They cannot extend any further. And it goes right into the shaft. So when he takes the club back, he has as much width as you can produce, which is fantastic. Width being the whole key. We hear that a lot in Tiger today. Mo's always had it in his golf swing through his extension. So when he comes back to hit the ball, his arc is so low to the ground, so flat and level to the ground, that he calls it the business area, the 3 feet where the ball is. The club is so much on line, longer than anybody else's. 2, because his lateral movement and the width of his stance, and 1, primarily because of the extension in his arms. It's beautiful. I mean, people can learn something from that. They can learn something from extension. They can't get hurt with it. You can't have too much width. And here's a player with a phenomenal amount of width and in simplicity.
And in reality, there's a point after the strike that the club does move back inside the ball target line, which all good players do.
Right. And I think also, too, imagine being that far away from the ball. Where's your swing plane going to be? The swing plane's going to be behind you. And so the shaft, if you watch it at the top of the backswing, the shaft is behind him. The club head is behind him. So the plane has to fit where the ball is. And since he's miles away from it, the swing plane looks like it's laid off. But it has to be that way to match where the ball is. And so it goes around him in the finish just the same way.
Chris in Ontario, what's going on with your golf swing, sir?
Hi, Craig and Peter. Glad to see you have a legend on your show tonight.
2 of them, actually.
One of the unique things that Mo does that I know about, but I never have seen, is his grip. I know he has a unique grip, and if you could show that to me and how he holds in this palm of his hand, I'd much appreciate it.
Chris, it's one of the unique things about Mo, because it starts in the setup. So he has a little bit what we would call a weaker left hand, where the thumb is more or less straight down the handle, and his right hand is, with no overlapping fingers or no interlocking at all, is slightly on the side. So with the V going up the right arm and the weaker left hand going almost up the V of his left hand going up his left arm, you have what we call opposing hands. So the right hand fights the left from turning, and so what it does is it keeps the left and right hand straight. It doesn't allow them to twist or turn, and that's why at the top of the backswing, his left wrist and his forearm are perfectly flat. That keeps it in plane almost to 1/4 inch up and down. He hates to have any fingers overlapping. He said, why take one finger off? You've got 10 fingers, use all of them. And I kind of agree with that. To the weaker players who don't have strong hands, the two-handed grip is a very good grip, and the ball doesn't care. But the key is the weak left hand versus a strong right hand.
Let's check in with 14-year-old Jonathan, who's also up in Ontario. Hello, Jonathan.
Hello.
How you doing?
Pretty good. Yourself?
Doing fine. Tell us about your golf game.
I was on the Tyson Tour last year, and I finished 8th overall, won 2 events, and came runner-up and won. And my question is, when Mo Norman lines up 14 or 18 inches behind the ball, does he have the club face closed or open to compensate for that distance?
No, he does not, actually. He aims it pretty squarely dead on to the target. It might be what we would call a tad open, simply because he's moved his shoulders to the right. But generally, the club face is aiming dead where he wants the ball to go. And he loves to do that. That's one of the great things that he invented, starting the club behind the ball like that. And it's a great way just to set up the club face and set up the shoulders already in the turn. I love that little piece.
Let's talk about the rotary versus the lateral forces as it applies to the recreational player.
Recreational players tend to get a little bit they get too eager to turn, so their shoulders and their hips turn at the same time, and so they wind the two up. Mo hates a pivot. He hates the thought of pivoting. So he leaves his hips behind and turns the shoulders away so that the hips basically don't move. And then on the way down, they lateral, rather than normally we would turn more and turn back more, clear we call it. Mo goes a little bit less turn, a little bit lateral, and then uses his arms and hands to go past the trunk, rotate over a little bit with the foot flat on the floor, and then afterwards, the body kind of reacts to the arm swing. And that's the way it works for him.
What does he mean, and how does it apply to us when he says, I stretch back and I spring forward?
With the hips not moving at all in the backswing, with no rotation of the hips at all, and just letting the shoulders move away from the ball with the arms, there's a tremendous resistance being built. If anyone at home sits in a chair and just turns their trunk to the right with their arms, they will feel a tremendous pull up the left side. That's what we call torque, much like a spring, much like a bow and a bowstring. As you pull back from the bow stays very steady. The string is the piece that goes back. Much the same way, that's the way Mo goes back, leaving the hips behind and building up that tremendous tension. That tension is a spring effect. So now you've got the spring effect, and it just catapults it through, much like the bowstring on a bow and arrow.
How can we maintain width and extension like Mo does?
That's a critical thing in a golf swing, because what we see is a lot of folding arms. They get to here and then they just give up, or they give up because the player's trying to go back further and the arm just can't take it anymore. So one of the things that he does, he sweeps the club. He has sometimes a little coin on the ground way in the back of the ball, and as a young boy, he had to drag the golf club over that coin, which created a tremendous amount of width in the backswing. So it's a good way to keep the club lower. As you turn away from the ball, the club stays very, very low. That way you create a tremendous arc through your left arm into the shaft of the club. And even when the hands begin to hinge, which they do with him, he still has that tremendous radius. When he moves forward, he still has the radius. And so when it comes back to impact, the radius is solid, it's always in place, and afterwards creates this tremendous stretch and extension going down the line. And that's how he maintains his accuracy.
We see Mo's swing is so brief in terms of how far back his arms go, not much more past the 9 o'clock position. When the rest of us try that, we're out of sync or out of tempo, out of rhythm. How does he put it all together? How can we put it all together to be shorter, because it's so much easier to be shorter and go?
I think it is. It's a spring effect, much like a baseball player. When you have your head facing the baseball pitcher and you take the bat back, it's about as far as you can go. And so you build up that energy in a short space of time. I think most people try to go back so far to build up energy to make it go faster. And what they do is they waste the energy by going too early, and by the time the club reaches the ball, it's dissipating its speed. So by shortening up, and I like to have the right arm, the right hand just above the right shoulder, and the elbow not above the shoulder. Because once that happens, the spring effect actually goes away. So we keep it a little bit lower than the shoulder, the hand slightly higher, and if you put a club in it, it looks very good. It's wide enough and it's long enough. So from here, this is where you generate your speed in a short space of time and in a split second. So when you get to that point, the lead is the lower body. Now you feel another resistance up in here and across the arm. As soon as that works, you build up that pressure again, tremendous pressure, and then you release that pressure and energy at the bottom of the swing, and you hit the ball as far as you can physically.
When we come back, let's talk a little bit about Mo's unique interpersonal style. And as we go away for a minute, I want to let you know how you can find Craig Shankland. You can find Craig at LPGA International in Daytona Beach, Florida, area code 904-439-0618, or log on to his website, cmshankland@mindspring.com. Again, to work with Craig Shankland, to go ahead and make your appointment, 904-439-0618. That's at LPGA International. Or log on to cmshankland@mindspring.com. What is it in Mo's background that contributes to the unique interpersonal style that he has today?
He is, I've always marveled at it, Peter. He's so positive. Everything that he does in his life, in his golf game, in his golf swing, it's always positive. So if he misses it a little bit, it's never missed, it's never bad in his mind. He's never missed a putt in his mind. He's never missed a green in his mind. He's never missed a fairway in his mind. It's a wonderful way to live your life. I mean, all you see is yourself as being perfect. It's not a bad way to go through life. There could be a lot of sadder things to happen to people, but he won't let that happen. He never has and he never will, and he teaches it to others, which is really remarkable. I think to watch him interact with young people who absolutely love him. I mean, I wish he was out on the senior tour. He had 50,000 people running around with him every day because of that wonderful uniqueness, and you feel an attachment to him. I mean, he looks like everybody else out there. And he stands like everybody else out there, the average hacker at the Muni golf course. And it comes out looking like nothing on this earth, which is one of the great things he wants to do, and I can imagine this as you could, is he wants to walk off into the sunset, knowing full well that nobody could do what he could do. Isn't that a wonderful way to go out?
That is the end of the movie.
Right.
What do you reckon are the sources of his eccentricity, the things that make him different in terms of the way he conducts himself, distinct from the golf?
Yes, he's extremely alone, and I think that comes back from his family life. I think when he took up golf, his family said, "Oh my goodness, you're not going to take up golf. What kind of a game is that? That's a game for sissies." And of course, most of the Canadians play hockey anyway. And it was really a depressing thing for him to go through that battle with his family. And his parents, he had to sneak the golf clubs into the house at night and never mention the word that he was going out practicing golf. So in that light, he came out of the family and could do something that none of them could do, even though they didn't appreciate it. And he's highly mathematical. He loves numbers. He'll run millions of numbers. They'll just fall out of the sky. And I was having lunch with him one day, and he just kind of left me for a minute. And I said, "What are you doing, Mo?" And he said, "Oh, I'm just running numbers." I said, "What are they doing?" He said, "They're all just falling out. 4,776, 5,773, and the total is 16,451." I said, "How do you know that?" He said, "That's what it is."
And there was no way you could check if he was right or wrong.
Right.
But you can check that golf swing. Thank you so much for tonight.
Thank you, Peter.
Great pleasure, Craig. Thank you for being with us, everybody. Good night.